Hi sewists and aspiring sewists, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to make this beautiful hoodie dress jacket. This can also be worn on a jogger. So if this looks like what you're interested in, guys, let's dive into the main video. For today's tutorial, these are the basic materials we're going to be using. We're going to be making use of this quality hoodie fabric. So I have here about 2.5 yards for this tutorial. We're also going to be making use of this high quality zipper. This is about 40 inches in length. Also, we're going to be making use of this rope here for our hoodie cap. And also, this is the standard measurements we're going to be using for this tutorial. This is an extra large size. So we know further delay, let's get right into it. So I'm already gonna ahead to lay my fabric on fold. My zipper allowance is about 2 inches, while the allowance for my zipper is about 0.25. So now I'm going to go ahead to measure my shoulder. So for my shoulder here, I have 21 inches. So I'm going to divide my 21 inches into 2. That's going to give me 10.5. Now this 21 inches includes my seam allowance. So what I'm going to measure here will be 10.5. So my measurement is actually including my zipper allowance, just as you can see. That tiny space I left on my front bodice is my zipper allowance. So now I'm going to proceed to measuring my armhole. So for my armhole here, I'm going to fold my back bodice and measure 9.5. I'm going to go ahead to measure 9.5. Also for my chest line, I have 9 inches here, so I'm going to go ahead to point out my 9 inches. Once I have this done, I'm going to use my French curve to trace out these lines. After that, I'm going to measure my body. So for my body now, I have 54 inches here, and I'm going to divide my 54 inches into 4, and that's going to give me 13.5. So I'm going to add ½ inch allowance to my 13.5. That will give me 14. So I'm going to go ahead to mark 14 on my bodies. Please, I also want you to note that while I'm measuring these, I'm also going to be including my zipper allowance. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to proceed by cutting the excess I have here. For my neckline, I'm going to be measuring 3 inches as my neckline width, while for my neckline depth, I'm going to be measuring 4.5 inches. I'm also going to repeat the same method on my back neckline. For my back neckline width, I'm also going to make it 3 inches, while for the depth, I'm going to make it 1 inch. So I'm going to use my French curve to merge these lines together. After that, I'm going to cut my neckline. After cutting, the next thing I'm going to do will be to notch my zipper allowance. So what I have here is a portion for my sleeve. So for my sleeve length, I have 22.5 inches here, and what I have measured here is 22.5. So this includes my seam allowance, and mind you, we're going to be adding a wristband to this. From my sleeve length, I'm going to come down by 3 inches, just as you can see me illustrate here. And next thing I'm going to measure will be my arm. So for my arm, I have 21 inches here. So I'm going to divide my 21 inches into 2. That's going to give me 10.5. So I added 1 inch allowance. That gave me 11.5. So what I'm measuring here is 11.5. So for my down sleeve here, I have 14 inches. 14 inches divided by 2 is going to give me 7 inches. And I added ½ inch allowance. So that gave me 7.5. So now I went ahead to measure my 7.5. Then I'm going to merge these lines together with my ruler. After connecting these lines, the next thing I'm going to do will be to cut my sleeve. Moving on, the portion I have here is for my wristband. So I'm going to go ahead to measure the length. So for my length here, I have 5 inches. While for the width of my wristband, I have 9.5 inches. Now the width part is the stretchy part of my fabric. So what I have here now is 2 pieces, because I'll be needing 2 pieces for this tutorial. Next thing to do now is to measure your hoodie cap. So for my hoodie cap length, I have 17 inches here, and I have this on 4 different pieces. So I'm going to go ahead to measure my 17 inches right away. After that, I'm going to go on with my cap width. So for my cap width, I'm measuring 13.5. So I'm going to go ahead to mark my 13.5, and what I have here is exactly 13.5. So I'm just going to go ahead to mark out my curve points around my hoodie cap. So once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead to cut what I have here. Next, I'm going to measure my pocket length. So for my pocket length, I'm going to be making use of 12 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark my 12 inches on different points point and I'm going to proceed to cut. After that, I went ahead to fold a little allowance of about 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. Then from this point, I came out by 4 inches and then I went down again by 7 inches. After that, on the downside of my pocket, I came in by 1 inch, just as you can see me illustrate in this video. After that, I'm going to use my ruler to trace these different marks. So I'm going to start from the upper part of my pocket. I'm going to mark it towards the center point. Then from the center point, I'm also going to mark my line to meet the down point. So now you can see that we already have a shape of what we want. Next thing I'm going to do now will be to cut out the shape, and I'm also going to notch the center point where I folded as my zipper allowance. Next, I'm going to measure the downside band of our jacket. So for this, I'm measuring 3 inches. Now I can't determine what the circumference measurement will be, so I just cut a random one which I calculated will be enough for the hoodie jacket. So if there's any excesses at all, I'm going to cut that while sewing on the hoodie jacket. So the next thing to do will be to attach my pocket to this part of my hoodie. So I'm already gonna add to hem this part of my pocket, and I've done the same on both pockets. So the next thing I'm going to do now will be to place the notch point on this visible gator you can see here. So I already created the gator on the notch point of my hoodie jacket exactly. So the distance from my pocket towards the downside is just 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to pin this down. Now I also want you to note that this 9 inches also comes after you must have folded your pocket, just as you can see me do right here. So once you get this done, you're just going to go ahead to pin this down. So you pinning it down is just to connect pockets together with the body of your hoodie piece. So after pinning this, you can see that what we have here is exactly 9 inches. Then I'm also going to come to the upper part of my pocket and fold it like this and repeat the same thing I did on the downside. So once I'm done with this part, I'm also going to fold the side of my pocket just like I did for both the upper part and the down part. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side pocket as well. So here is a look of our pocket, and this is how it is looking like after fixing. So you want to be sure that when you're sewing your streetwear, you are actually ironing as you sew. So I'm already gonna add to also iron this part, not so much, but I've done a little ironing, and this is how it is looking like. Next, I'm going to attach my shoulder line together. So I'm going to sew on this part of my shoulder line, and I'm also going to sew on the other side of my shoulder line as well. Next, I'm going to create a center point around my armhole, and I'm going to notch the center point of my armhole. Next thing I'm going to do will be to place the center point of my sleeve, which has also been notched on the center point of my armhole. So at this point, you can decide to pin it or just pick it up just like I'm doing in this video. So I'm going to start my sewing from this part to the last part of my armhole. Okay, so here's the final look of what I just did, and I'm also going to be repeating the same thing on the other side as well. Next, I'm going to join the side of my jacket together, picking it from the sleeve area, just as you can see me demonstrate in this video. So I'm going to be picking up my sewing from here, and I'm going to sew downward. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other sleeve area as well. So after that, next thing I'm going to do will be to sew on my wristband. So I'm going to join my wristband like this. You can see that we have 2 pieces here. So I'm going to be joining the 2 pieces together at a time. Next, I'm going to fold my wristband just like this, and I'm going to attach the joining towards the joining of my sleeve as well, just as you can see me illustrate in this video. So I'm going to make sure that the joining of my wristband is aligned with the joining of my sleeve, and I'm going to go ahead to sew this. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other sleeve as well. Yeah, so after sewing, this is what it is looking like. Next, I'm going to attach the band to the downside of my hoodie jacket. So while doing this, I'm going to be stretching the band on the body of my jacket. So after sewing, this is what we have. This is what our jacket is looking like. Also, I'm already gonna to apply my stay on the zipper part, so I'm going to be weaving this downward. I'm also going to weave the other side of my zipper part as well. So next, at this point, you want to be sure that your pockets are aligning with each other. You want to be sure that the zipper allowance is actually aligning with each other. So next I'm going to do will be to fix my zip from the downside, just as you can see me do in this video. So I'm going to start my sewing from this angle, and I'm going to sew on this exact gator point that I already created. So I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So here's the final look after I already fixed my zipper. So you can see that my pockets are actually aligning with each other. So be mindful of this when you are doing your own. Make sure that it is aligning. Yeah. So now the next thing I'm going to do now will be to attach my hoodie cap. So I'm going to go ahead to sew my hoodie cap. For my hoodie cap, I'm already gonna ahead to fix my eyelet. So the distance from my eyelet to the downside is 2.5 inches. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead to sew on this part of my hoodie cap. So just as we all know, I'm going to be sewing double of this. So just because this particular material has white as the inner part, I don't want the white to show, so I'm going to sew on the white part, just as you can see me doing this video. I'm also going to do the same on the other cap as well. After that, I'm going to spread out my hoodie cap like this, and I'm going to attach the other part of my hoodie cap to this, and I'm going to join it straight down. So after joining, this is the result of what I have. So I'm going to be turning this to the right side, and after turning, this is how it is looking like. Also, I've gone ahead to also seam this part of my hoodie cap, just as you can see me do. If you need more detailed tutorial on this, you can please kindly check my previous video. I was able to explain how I was able to do all of this. So now I'm going to go by attaching my hoodie cap to this neckline of my hoodie jacket. So I'm going to mark the center point, just as you can see me do in this video, and I already have the center point of my hoodie cap, which is the joining part of my hoodie cap, just as you can see. I'm going to pick this center point, I'm going to pin it down, and I'm also going to extend my hoodie cap towards the zipper point, and I'm also going to pin that down as well. Next, I'm going to couple these two together. So here is the result of what I just did. I'm also going to go ahead to sew a straight line across this part of my neckline. So after that, this is what we have. This is what it is looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do now will be to flip it like this, and I'm also going to sew on this part, sewing a straight line on this part of my neckline as well. So after doing that, this is my final result. So if you've been following this video till this point and you were able to achieve this is me giving you your flowers. Next, just because I wanted to finish work on this hoodie jacket, I went ahead to apply this gum to the zipper allowance, just so that it can be very firm. And this is the result of what we have. So if you'll be trying this beautiful hoodie jacket, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.